Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit Podcast. We do the usual podcast format. We talk about FOs, the whips. I don't talk about yarn acquisitions during the podcast because usually I don't have any yarn acquisitions unless I am traveling and decide to buy a bunch of yarn. But today we do have some books that I've read over the month of June. It's been a very busy month, I am not going to lie. I went to Bangkok for work. I was only there for 3 days. It wasn't a long trip, but it was a very nice trip. And I did look at some of the yarn that they had at a place called Big Knit, but I did not buy anything because my budget for yarn went out the window as soon as I landed in London. I spent a lot of money on yarn. You could find my London haul somewhere up there if I remember to put it up. And yeah, I was in Bangkok, and then once I came back to Brunei, I was doing a lot of the workshops. So I think we did some classes on storytelling, and we're just preparing for that when we get the students to come in and learn more about storytelling. I did knit some things. I have one FO that I want to talk about, which is the one I'm wearing now. And then we have, I want to say 3 whips, but more than anything else, it's 2 whips plus one that I'm about to do this week. And I have 5 books that I want to talk about that I just finished reading and 2 that I'm currently sloshing through. I don't want to get into it right now because the books, I think it's a nice mix of fiction, probably. I have my coffee in my Alice in Wonderland mug that my sister kindly got me. I have my second cup of coffee and it does not taste nice because there was no more milk. And yeah, I think that's it. I hope you're doing well. I hope June has been good. I hope 2025 has been good so far, because can you believe it's already 2025? Jeez Louise, I can't believe it's already halfway through the year. And it only feels like now I'm getting back into the knitting spirit and actually wanting to make things and designing things. So all in all, I think it's a nice halfway mark. I think about it like last year. I think I just got married, took some time off, and now I'm here doing my work in the same old room. But yeah, enough chatting. Let's get started with the FOs. The FO that I want to talk about today in this video is my very first sweater of this year, I think, and it is the Rib Lace Raglin by James and Watts. This is a raglan that I think is supposed to be 0 to 6 centimeters of positive ease, although I could be wrong. And I did knit this in a size, I believe a size S or M, and then I proceeded to stretch it out during blocking so it would be a lot more sheerer and a lot more comfortable for me to wear. I'm using Botanical Nomad Merino linen in the color Silver Wattlez, but you could see over here at the neckline and then at the sleeves and right at the hem, ignore the fact that I'm wearing sweatpants, I'm using, I think it is Big Little Yarn Co. in the color She Sew sock yarn held double because I wanted the I-cord to look slightly different. I think it gives a really nice look to the sweater. And I like how sheer it is. You can see it's a very basic 2-row repeat and it's very easy to memorize. I would say this sweater definitely got out of my knitting funk that I was in for the past few months. I started this project, I think, on the flight to London. I was working on the neckline because you start at the back and then you just kind of increase and then join in the round to create the neckline shaping. So I started working on that while I was in London, and then I think I joined the body by the time we landed back, and then just the rest of May, June, I was just working on this sweater, and I really love it. I would say I don't usually like making raglans. I think they're fine. It's just not something I have a preference to. Like if it's a raglan, sure. It's not really my style though. And I know there's some issues that people have with raglans, and I can see an issue here is that sometimes the underarm pit is a bit too, it's either too tight or it's too long, and you can definitely see it in this sweater. So you can see this is where my armpit is. This is where this, like, the sweater starts. And it's definitely, it could be like my issue because I did block this sweater to the gods when I was blocking it. Like, I pinned everything. So it definitely could just be like a human error on my part. But it is like a very long pit. And so when you lift it up, it kind of like goes up with you almost. And then you can see here, sometimes the sweater also kind of lifts up with you. I did make the sleeves much longer than I anticipated. I think with blocking and over time, it has kind of shrunk, which is good. So it just about fits my arms. There's nothing really much I have to say about it. I think in the previous podcast, I did mention I wanted to like stretch it and block it as much as I could. This is as much as I could do. I think in the original photos that James took for the photos, for the models, they were much more fitted on them rather than what I intended, because I wanted something a lot more looser so I could wear this more like a cover-up than anything else. And I think it's done its job. I also didn't block this sweater. Well, no, I didn't swatch this sweater. I didn't make a gauge swatch, which maybe in hindsight I could have, but I didn't really want to. I just wanted to get into this project as straight as possible. And initially it was quite fit. I don't think I have any photos, but it was quite a fit piece until I blocked and stretched it out. But overall, I think I prefer it kind of oversized, slightly oversized, I think. I have about a 35 to 36 inch bust, depending on how much I ate that day. And you can see here, it's a lot more oversized on me than it is in the photos. So I look forward to taking pictures and seeing how it looks like. The merino linen, I will say, is very, very, very nice. It feels really comfortable. It's nice. It's not too hot. I can definitely wear this out if I wanted to. Probably not when it's like midday and 35 degrees out, but definitely on the cooler afternoons or evenings, I definitely see myself wearing this out a lot more. I do like it. It's really pretty, and it's like the right amount of sheer that I like without it being too basically nothing. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's much to say about this. It was a pretty standard make apart from the repeats. I do know that I made some mistakes here and there when it came to the repeats just because I was trudging along. Because you knit the neckline shaping flat, which got me confused when we started doing it in the round, and it was a different pattern almost. Not really, you're just doing the same side, right? Because you're knitting in the round. So it did give me some confusion when I first started. I'm pretty sure there's a mistake here somewhere that I am not going to show you because I can't find it. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints on the pattern itself, apart from the fact that maybe the neckline is a bit tight compared to what I was expecting. I thought the neckline would be a lot more looser, like maybe around here rather than right up to my neck. And it was much tighter before blocking. Some people might like a neckline close to their neck. I'm indifferent. I don't really like it. So long it's not choking me, it's like completely okay. And the thing about the yarn, I don't know if you can tell, I did use 2 balls and they are hand dyed. I believe they're dyed with natural materials. I thought it was gonna be okay, but you can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's like a very subtle fade. It's not like a solid color, but you could see here and here are slightly different shades of brown. And I think it's the same somewhere here too, even though they're kind of the same color lot, if I believe correctly. So in hindsight, maybe I should have done I should have knitted every other row with a different ball of yarn to prevent the pooling. But since I was traveling, I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that at all. Overall though, I do like this piece. I'm really happy that it's a new addition to my sweater family, and I do want to knit more sweaters by James. I think this is my, I want to say second piece that I've made. The first one was the color quadrant top that I made back in 2021 that I don't wear anymore because it is 100% acrylic. When I was first starting out with making wearables. This at least I know is very wearable because it's merino linen. You can see some of the linen flecks, like I believe right here. I don't know. It's like right there. I don't know if you can see it. But it's not uncomfortable. I think the linen gives it a bit of structure, whereas the merino makes it feel very soft on the skin. And I do like it. I have no other complaints apart from the neckline and my own issues with the yarn. If I look slightly different, it's because I had to turn on the camera again and slightly shift it because my dad called me. Anyway, let us continue with the whips, which there are 3 or like 2 and one that I'm about to cast on. And if the aircon's loud, it's because there was no aircon earlier and I was getting sweaty and really agitated. The first one that I want to show you, which I was thinking about this for a while now. I've been thinking about a design, and for the first time this year, I was like, okay, I'm really going to start thinking about other designs now. This is what I'm going to be calling the Langit Sweater. Ta-da! Langit means sky in Bahasa Melayu, and I call it Langit because my very first pattern that I ever released was called the Awan Vest, which means cloud. So this is more like the sister of the vest. It is using, I think, Sostrene green yarn, mohair blend, held double. So it's like very sheer. I don't know if you can see it, but it's quite sheer. Not as sheer as this, but it is pretty sheer and lightweight. And I did hold it double on 6mm needles, so it's going by pretty fast. I started this project probably about a few days ago, probably like 5 days ago, actually probably a week now that I think about it. And this is how far I've gotten. It's a bottom up, and I wanted to do a thick hem, and you could see the hem is so thick and I love it. Usually for me, I'm indifferent when it comes to the hem. Like, I know I don't really like rib, to be honest. I'm not really a huge fan of rib, but this long hem I'm like really enjoying. So I'm working on this sweater bottom up. I think this is the back piece, and then I'm going to start working on the shoulder shaping soon, and then working on the sleeves. And I wanted something really sheer, lightweight, something I could wear out and about. That's not always my Rehat sweater because I wear that all the time here. I think I've been saying this for a few months now over the course of a few videos, which is I've been really enjoying like sheer sweaters, like the sheer blends and everything. Like, I just got the King Fiber, I think, Mohair silk blend, I think, in the color Acid. And I want to make the Ghost Whisper with that, but I wanted to make something of myself first that has been in my head for, I think, the past year, and I'm like finally starting to work at it. I will say though, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, it could also be a you thing. Tell me if it is, but whenever I work with mohair, I am sneezing a lot more, my nose is itchier, and I'm also coughing a lot more, and I think it's because the hair, the little mohairs are getting up into my nose. And every time I'm knitting this, once I'm done, once I stand up, you can see on my legs just piles and piles of fluff. So I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, this is exactly what it feels like to have a cat. Because I have a cat that sheds a lot too. I'm like, this is slightly different. And I'm always so worried about getting it in my mouth, which has happened a couple of times. When I'm knitting this, I take a break and then I'm eating popcorn with my hands afterwards. And I wash my hands and then there's still popcorn, like fluff on my popcorn or in my coffee, which also gets me worried. Best practice is not to eat your yarn. That is something that I've had to deal with whenever I'm making something with mohair. I worked on the Drops Kid Silk with my, I think it was my Party Cardi vest by Jamie Creates. I think I knitted it as a test knit last year. And one thing that I notice with it, one, Drops Kid Silk is very itchy, and I only wear that vest if I'm wearing something over it. And two, it sheds like a mofo. It really, really does. So I try my best to, I don't know how to prevent it. That's the thing, because it is mohair and it's just kind of there on the yarn. But compared to Kid Silk, I will definitely say this mohair is a lot softer. It's not as itchy. That being said, I haven't worn it on my skin yet because I'm still knitting it through, but I don't have any negative comments on this. With the process of designing and knitting something, obviously there are changes to be made. There's some things where I've definitely had to rip back the body and I've had to rip back the back portion because I'm like, wait, this might be better like this or like that. So that's something I have to keep in mind whenever I'm working on something new, is that the process of designing would usually take much longer than the actual piece. But so far, I'm really enjoying working this up. I really, really want to finish this sooner than later, so hopefully I can call out for a test knit end of this month, probably, and get really excited to start working on new things. But yeah, I think this is a really nice piece for me to make, and it's something to do with my hands, which for somebody who's always fidgeting and someone who always wants to do something but not necessarily always have the time, it's nice to have like a regular sized project that might not take 2 months to finish. Like this took me 2 months, I would say. Like, actually no, I think it probably took me about a month because I started it May 13th and then I think I finished it June 15th or 20th, halfway through the month. So this took me about a month. This one probably will not take me a month. It'll probably take me 2 weeks at most. And I do have some more of the mohair that I bought, I think in a teal color. I might make another sample after this one, but we shall see about that. I do like the hem. I think I'm going to keep the hem really wide for this and then the neckline and then the sleeves as well. And then I'm also going to be doing some shoulder shaping because I've been reading the Vogue knitting book and I was like, oh, so that's how you do it. Very interesting, very fascinating. There's some things where when you're reading, it makes a lot more sense than when you're reading it online. You know what I mean? You have the information is online, don't get me wrong, but having a physical copy where you can just highlight and take notes is something that I think my overachieving student brain still craves at the age of 27. And it's fun. Genuinely, it's really, really fun for me to read these books and just get interested in all of that, you know? So that's where this is going. I will keep you updated if I finish it, but we shall see. And then I hope I have enough yarn. I probably do. This one is, I think, 2 balls of yarn that I winded into 1 ball because it was easier. So I'm hoping this is enough, and then I have like 2 more balls that hopefully will be done for the sleeves and then the neckline, and I don't have to worry about this anymore. Because that's my issue whenever it comes to designing something, is that I'm always so worried that I don't have enough yarn or that I have too much yarn. But yeah, I think that's where we're going. I have work tonight. I'm going to do a DJ set, so I'm hoping that I can finish this by the afternoon and then I can start working on the front piece tonight during my set, because it's a very basic stockinette stitch. And usually when I'm in a knitting slump, I don't like working on plain stockinette. Very tiresome, which is why this was really great. And I also have a video on patterns to get you out of a knitting slump. There was the previous video. That should be the video that I posted before this one. And the ribbed lace raglan definitely helped me get out of that knitting slump because it was such a mindless knit that wasn't stockinette, which I really appreciated about it. Let us move on to the next project, which I keep in this little bag. And this is what I need help with, because I'm tempted to start all over, even though I know that'd be a waste, because it's not a bad project. It's also another thing that I'm designing and that I'm trying to figure out. So this is what I'm going to call the Chahaya Scarf. If you saw my previous video, my previous podcast, I was raving about this cashmere and how soft and beautiful it is, and that I wanted to make a scarf out of it. And I was looking through some of my old like designs, and I realized that I really loved the Cahaya bandana that I made, and I wanted a scarf version basically. So I drafted, I think, 8 different variations of it, like just 8 different variations, 8 different ways to create this pattern. And I settled on one that I really like, and it looks like this. Absolutely beautiful. Like, I tried probably 3 different ones, and it kept curling, or it was too short, or something was off about it. So I settled on this one that I really like, and I think I'm about halfway through. I still got a lot of balls of yarn, but here is the issue with it. The initial idea was that it's going to be like a triangle scarf, hence why it's a triangle. But I'm a bit worried that it's not going to look like a triangle that is a 2x1. So the tip from here to here would be longer, or like shorter than the tip from here to here. Like, it looks like a right angle triangle, if you know what I mean. And I don't think I wanted that look. If I followed the pattern that I made, it would feel longer, or it would be longer than it is this way. And so I've been taking a break from this for the past, I want to say 2 weeks. I haven't picked this pattern up because I was still trying to figure out different methods, but none of them are working because this specific lace pattern looks good when it doesn't have any other yarn overs apart from the ones that are in the pattern itself. So that's my main issue as to the reason why I haven't worked on it, even though it's such a beautiful, beautiful scarf, and I'm gonna keep working on it. The alternative that I'm thinking is just continue the pattern as is, work on it, and then block it as much as I can and see how it looks like. I'm using Beautiful Knitters Cashmere. I think this is in the color Camden. Very fitting name. And this is using 3.5mm needles. I can be wrong. I could be wrong. But apparently it's the same base as Cardiff Cashmere. Never worked with them before, so I wouldn't know. But it does feel very nice. It's very soft. And the acid pink, it's just such a pretty color. And I'm planning on doing some more cold trips in the coming months. I don't know when, but I really, 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 really want to. So having this bright, beautiful scarf would be amazing for that trip. And I'll tell you this, the camera does not do the color in my eyes any justice. It looks a lot more softer, but I guarantee you it's so much richer in real life, and it's more saturated, which I like in my accessories, in a lot of my clothes, even though I just finished the brown. I just really love bright colors. I have so much fun working with it, and it's so eye-catching. And with the pattern itself, it looks so nice. Do you see that? Imagine it after it's blocked. One of my go-to pieces that I wear is the bandana, the Chahaya bandana, because I really like it. It's very comfortable. It doesn't pill or anything, so it's such a great project for me. I just wanted to make a scarf version. I will keep you updated, but do let me know what your thoughts are, if I could just kind of play around with it, or should I just start all over? But it's so pretty! Ah! But yeah, I was talking about this with my sister the other day. She has no idea what I mean by like different rows and stuff. Like, the initial plan was just to expand the bandana, but then I realized the gauge is different for the cotton cashmere compared to the drops bell that I used to make the sample. I think this one has much more for rows. I think it's like 34 stitches, whereas with drops bell I think it's like 28 rows. And those 6 rows do make a difference when it comes to calculating and figuring out the design and making sure it doesn't curl, because when I'm working the Chahaya bandana with the drops bell, it doesn't curl, doesn't bunch up. But when I did that with this, it did bunch up, so I had to redesign and figure out the increases in a much more steadier pace where it didn't bunch up, and I think we did a pretty good job, but we'll see in the future. I have one more thing that I want to discuss. I don't know whether or not I can talk about it. Actually, no. I think I can talk about it. This is the Fleurie top by Friday Knits. I don't have the piece yet, but I think I can show a picture of her making it. I don't know. I'll see. This is what she looks like. Oh, she's so pretty. I've done a project by her. I think I test knitted the Daphne blouse and I had a really good time making it. And when she was doing a call out for test knitters for the Fleurie top, I applied just willy-nilly because I was like, oh, it's been a while. You know, I like vests. I like making stuff with her. I usually really like her designs. So I got accepted. Yay. But then I noticed that it required Aran weight yarn on 4.5 millimeter needles. And I was like, oh, okay. Do I have any like cotton lightweight yarns that I can use? Because in the sample that she used, I think she used wool in the gang and it was cotton. So I was going through all the cottons that I had, anything that was worsted weight. And yesterday I decided to make 4 different gauge swatches because I think in the pattern it's like 19 stitches by 24 rows, and that's such a specific pattern. That's a specific gauge to get. So I did 4. One was with, I think this is Motivera that I got from Spotlight last year. This one is Rowan Mako Cotton Baby, which should have matched. I think it was like 19 stitches by 25 rows. And then I did one with Rosario's for Nature, which is a DK weight yarn, but I thought maybe we could try it. And then I did another one with Rowan Cotton Cashmere, which says it's a DK. No, it says it's worsted, but it acts more like a DK. So I did 4 different swatches, and I think we found one, which is the Rowan Cotton Cashmere. Because you'd think this or this by, I think, Kush from Spotlight, they both said that it was about 20 to 19 stitches, but this, when I knitted a swatch, it was actually like 16, 17. I was like, oh, I can't do that. So I worked on the Mako Baby and it was also the same thing. And then I tried this one and I was like, no, it's still like 22 stitches or 21 stitches, and it's still like 4.5 millimeter needles. This one is about, I want to say 20 stitches, and I was like, you know what? This can work. We can block it. It's fine. We can start on this. That being said, I might not use this actual color. I might use like one of the blues that I have, because I was thinking about it. As nice as a white vest slash cardigan would be, I think I would prefer if it was blue. Thankfully, I do have this in a blue shade, so I think I'm going to work on that. And this is how I know I really like Friday Knits' designs, because I probably would not do this many gauge swatches for one project. But I think because it was a 19 stitches, 4.5 millimeter needles, I was like, I really need to make sure that this pattern fits and it won't like stretch or anything. Especially since it's using Aran weight yarn. I think my Abbey Road would have worked, but I've already knitted that into a tank top that I can't remember if I showed it here. I think there were some things off about it, which is why I never made a pattern on it. But I think this is the winner. It's a very short test knit. I think it's only about 4 weeks, and I have not started on it, and it's due on the 25th. My bad. I'm usually a fast knitter when it comes to test knits. I get really into test knitting. I just have so much fun with it. I know there's a lot of discourse when it comes to test knitters, but I just enjoy it because I enjoy the vibe. And plus I get a free pattern and I have a lot of fun talking with the designers. So I'm going to start working on the Fleurie top. Come the next podcast, I will hopefully have something to show you and something to yap on and share with you on. That is all the whips that I have. Let's move on to the books. Yay! I have been doing book reviews on this channel only very recently. I've only been getting back into books probably this, well, I say this year, but that's not true. I've always been an avid reader, but some months, some years, I'm better than others. Last month, read only 5 books. The year before that, I think I read 30 books. And then the year before that, 5. The year before that, 2. The year before that, I read like 50. So I've been very inconsistent with my reading. But this month, I think I did a pretty good job. I think I read about 5 books, which is nice. You know, I think that's pretty good for me. And I want to talk about the books that I've been enjoying, that I've been reading, that maybe you might like too if we both have the same reading tastes. Some of these are very popular, others I think they're more from my side of the world. So we get a really interesting mix of books. I'll start off with the first book I finished this month that I talked about in the previous podcast, which is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. I will be honest with you, I did not know whether to rate this book 3 stars or 4 stars, and it's not a 3.5. It's either a 3 or a 4, but it's nothing in between. Reading this book is very interesting to me because I know what it's supposed to be about. The main character is unlikable. She's not very moral, and that's fine. It's fine. I thought the side characters were very funny, and I thought getting into her head was very interesting, and I think it's executed well. But the more I think about this book, the more I'm like, I understand the point, but did she execute it well enough? And towards the end, I think it got a lot more interesting. I think the first half of the book is much slower than the last half, and I prefer the last half. I thought the last half was very intriguing. I thought it was where a lot of things were coming together. I just wish that the rest of the book was as interesting as the later half. And I think that's my main issue with it, was that there's so much potential that I saw that I really enjoyed, and that she's just very disgusting, the protagonist of the book. And I enjoy that. I think there's something really fun about listening or reading to a character that is unlikable and why that is. She's slow. And this book is very slow. It's about someone who is not giving a crap about the world in the time of the 2000s where there's a lot of hope and optimism. And yeah, would I recommend this? I don't know. Honestly, I feel like the people that I would recommend this book to probably have already read it, which is probably why I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. I know that having a protagonist like this could be very uncomfortable to some people, but it's fine to me. I honestly think the themes of this book could be explored a lot more in ways that I think would be a lot more interesting. I don't know how else to describe it. I would probably recommend this to like my best friend. Whether or not she would actually like this book is an entirely different thing. We have very different tastes in books, which is why I don't recommend her a lot of things, and she doesn't recommend a lot of things to me. Now, after I finished My Year of Rest and Relaxation, I immediately started reading Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney is probably one of my favorite lit fic writers, and I know people have mixed reviews on her writing style, specifically because she does not use quotations. She does not use quotations at all, and yes, it can be very confusing sometimes. Like, my husband and I were reading one night, I think in bed. I was reading this book, he was reading a manga, and he saw how heavy this book was, like all small font sizes, no quotation marks, and he was like, how can you read that? And I was like, well, you just read it. I actually like the fact that she doesn't use quotation marks, because I think it makes you focus a lot more on the book, on the characters, what she's trying to say. There are definitely parts in this book when I was reading it that I had to go back and reread because I was like, wait, I missed something. This book is called Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I think this is her 4th book, and it is about 2 brothers grieving the passing of their father. And I really love how Sally Rooney uses characters to explore relationships and relationship dynamics, not necessarily just with love, but also familiar friendships. And I think this book does it well. It's not my favorite book of hers. I think Normal People still is probably my favorite book that I've read from her. But this I found very, very interesting. I will say that each chapter is told from a different brother's perspective. And one of the brothers I liked a lot more than the other because I found his chapters to be a lot more interesting. And one of the things that I think confused me, I'll say this, I was reading this book on the airplane and on the way back to Brunei from Bangkok, I think I read like 20 pages before I realized, wait a minute, I missed a chapter because it was told through the other brother's perspective. So I had to go back and start reading the previous chapter before because I missed something. And that's definitely my fault. I was also super tired. It was like 11 p.m. at night. I was really, really tired. Um, but I really did enjoy this book. I do love the brothers and their interactions with the women in their lives. I thought it was very fascinating. That being said, one woman in this book is a lot more significant because we get into her head more so than the other two women, which for me personally made me feel a little confused. I was like, why aren't the other women having their POVs? Mostly because it's either, personally for me, I think it would have been a much more compelling book if it was just the two brothers' perspective or all the perspectives. But what else is there to say? I think I would give this book maybe 4 stars. It's not my favorite, but it was definitely an enjoyable read. And it hits you really, really well. I think it's really, really fun. In terms of the book, I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Sally Rooney. If you're not a fan of Sally Rooney, this is not the book to start with. But yeah, I really enjoy literary fiction like this. I think it's really fun. I think it's really enjoyable. And yeah, very good book. So the next book that I finished this month was The Accidental Malay by Karina, Robles, Bahrin. This is a very controversial book in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia. I did not know that until I popped on Goodreads and realized there were a lot of people having a lot of opinions on this book. Long story short, this book has a very interesting premise. It's about a woman named Jasmine who is an heiress to a Bakwa empire. Bakwa is a traditional Chinese snack, I think, and it's usually made with pork. And then she discovers she's actually a Malay Muslim because her father married a Malay Muslim and then converted. But then he, spoiler, if you're going to read this, passed away before she was born. She was raised in her Chinese household, so she doesn't recognize herself as Malay or Muslim. And then the book basically explores the turmoil and kind of the political drama of it all, being, you know, the racial policies of Malaysia, of Southeast Asia, especially for a story like this. And I think my first thought after finishing this book is that it should have been longer. I don't think a lot of books should be longer, but I feel like this book should have been. It's only about 217 pages, which is a very short book. And I think in terms of concepts, it's so interesting. I find stories about racial politics, religious dynamics to be a very fascinating exploration. And I feel like this book has so much potential that it did not execute well enough for me, that it left things very open-ended and really didn't conclude in a way that I feel like could make this book so much better. Like, it was missing so much to me that honestly it didn't even justify the controversy, because this book is from the perspective of someone who doesn't view Muslims or Malay people very well. And I can see why. She's a CEO of she's a billionaire. Like, I don't really mind that. Especially since I was reading like my year of rest and relaxation. If this book, she's not unlikable. She's like not the worst person in the world. She just has opinions. Ooh. But that being said, I think for me, this book just had a lot of potential that it did not reach in terms of exploring these dynamics. And there is a relationship love story in here that I was like, I could skip without it. It's a bit annoying to trudge through. I like romance, don't get me wrong, but it was just not worth it in this book. I much preferred the family dynamics that I wish this book had explored. I give it maybe 3 stars. It could have been better because I think her writing is fine. Her writing style is great. The story, the characters, the drama, great. It was just not executed well enough for me. Would I recommend this book to anyone who is not Malay or Chinese, like not from this area of the world? Maybe, but I feel like this wouldn't be the greatest representation of Malaysia, I'll be honest with you. It's definitely a book that cannot be published anywhere else, but I also don't know whether this book would be for everyone in Asia. You know what I mean? Okay, going straight from that, I finished that book and I was like, I want something a lot more lighter, a lot less chaotic, something that I know would be good. So I read Kick-Ass by Mark Millar. This is my husband's book, and ever since he moved in, we were organizing the bookshelf, I think earlier this month. And his books have basically combined with my books. He reads a lot of Chuck Palahniuk, H.P. Lovecraft. He has Hunter S. Thompson. He also has Kick-Ass. And so I thought, well, I love the movie. I'm gonna just read the graphic novel. I finished this book in one day. I think I finished it in a morning, actually. And I'll be honest, I think you should just watch the movie. There's nothing else for me to say, really. It's a fine graphic novel, but it's an even better book. It's an even better movie. I give it 3 stars. If you don't know what the story of Kick-Ass is, it's about a guy who wants to become a superhero and then becomes a superhero and then things happen. But I think this is the type of book that can really only be published in the early 2010s, late 2000s. But not in a way that I'm like, this is very PC. It's fine. I think the shock factor, I feel like the shock factor is there simply for shock factor. And then if you take all of that out, the story is much more linear in the movie than it is in this book. And I think I enjoyed that because the movie definitely cleans it up a lot more. I can't read this book without comparing it to the movie. Hence why I'm yapping so much about this book and the movie. The art style is great. I find it very interesting. But in terms of if you should read it, if you've read the movie, if you've watched the movie, then you probably don't need to read this book. The art style is nice, the colors are nice, but the story itself, I think, is much better in the movie. And last but not least, let's talk about the last book that I finished in June, which is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This is about a photographer, Irina, who is a photographer and she photographs really interesting things of men. That's probably the only way I could talk about this book without getting flagged on YouTube. At the end of this book, after finishing it, is it bad of me to say that I wanted her to be worse? I saw people on TikTok and even on Goodreads say that this is like a female Patrick Bateman. I don't see it. That being said, I haven't read American Psycho or watched the movie either. I feel like this book is in the mind of a sociopath. It's about somebody who does not like men, who does not like women, who does not like anybody but herself. She is this very beautiful, bouncy, light, orange-haired girl who's also a photographer, but she's so skinny, she's a model. But at the end of the day, when I was reading it, I was like, she could be worse, you know? Like, she does terrible stuff in this book, which gets progressively worse, and yet it never hits that point where I'm like, oh, she is the real villain. She's really just this terrible, terrible person. It's also, I think, an exploration of toxic masculinity and how men try to portray themselves and how men act. especially around her, because she is a very beautiful woman, that they don't realize that she's also actively trying to hurt them. But at the end of the day, I think with a book like this, I really thought it was going to be like terrible. She was going to do something really horrible and raw and disgusting, which this book wasn't. It felt like it was building to something that ended up not happening at all, which disappoints me because I think, like the Accidental Malay, like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, I wanted this book to be a lot darker than it actually was. And I thought the main character would be a lot more worse than she actually is. Maybe that just says something about my brain, but I wish she was worse. I really do. Those are all the books that I read for this month. I am reading 2 books that I picked up, although both actually, I'm not really enjoying, but I'm going to sludge through it because I refuse to D&C a book until it's really, really bad. I'll talk about the first one, which is Lily King, Writers and Lovers. This is about a girl called Casey who is in between 2 guys. It is a romance. I've read good things about this book. It's actually been in my Goodreads want to read list for I think 3-4 years now. And I finally found it at my local bookshop, and it was 20% off, so I only paid $12 for it. Yay! And I think I read like the first 30 pages and then I stopped. I don't know why. I think it's the writing style that I'm a bit bored of. I think after reading a lot of literary fiction like Sally Rooney and reading Boy Parts and My Year of Rest and Relaxation the month of June, reading something like this, which is a lot more simplistic, a lot more digestible, almost bores me to a way. It's not a bad book, and especially since I've only covered the first 30 pages, nothing's really happening. It's all just establishing. So I can't really give a lot to say about this book since I'm only on the first 30 pages. I hope to finish it. I hope, because the premise is very interesting. It is about a writer who has yet to publish her book, and she's torn between 2 men, and I heard this is a nice entry to romance. I haven't read romance in such a long time, so hopefully this one will get me going. I just gotta make sure I get going while I feel like I want to read romance. The next book that I have is a Singaporean novel. It is The Formidable Miss Cassidy. This is the co-winner for the Epigram Book Fiction Prize 2021, which is probably why I picked this book up. So it's set in 1890s Singapore, and it's about a paid companion, Miss Cassidy, who can also see ghosts. And this is kind of like going into like the ghosts of Singapore, Brunei, Asia in general, I would say, specifically Southeast Asia, like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. Folklore is something that I would say is still very common or popular here in this side of the world. And when I say popular, I mean our ghost stories are very, very similar. And I'm always so fascinated by our fantasies and our genre, specifically when it comes to reading about the ghosts and the demons. It's very, very fun to me. So I picked this book up last year, and actually I started reading it probably last year. It's like split into parts, so it's almost like short stories that's mushed together about her adventures. So like part 3, part 2, part 1, and I made it to page 107 before I stopped reading it. And not for any particular reason. I think it was just not my time, not my vibe, but I am intending to pick this up again. If you're interested in learning about folk tales from this side of the world, it is very interesting. I will say I used to read stuff like Singapore ghost stories, which I was raised in that. That was like stories of like ghosts of Asia. It wasn't just Singapore, it was also Malaysia, and I think I remember reading about Brunei and Indonesia. Now I wouldn't recommend it, but back in the day it was really, really good. So it gives me the same vibe reading this, but more fictionalized, obviously. I will give my updates on those 2 books in the next podcast if you're still interested, But I think that's about it from me. I've been yapping for about an hour. I need to get some more coffee, and I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye!